Hello guys, my name is Rogelio Lehel, and today we'll be talking about purchasing a new computer. Um, Places where to buy. Uh, Amazon is a really good place. Their layout for buying stuff is not really good in my opinion. But most of the time when you buy something from them, their shipping is quicker than other ones. So if you want to get things faster, then you can go to them. Otherwise, um, I will go to Newegg, where the layout to buy components is easier, and they also have an option where you can build your computer and you can add CPU, memory, hard drives, uh, accessories, and as you are adding them, it tells you the prices for things, so you can see exactly how much money you're spending, or if you're hitting, the limit on how much money you're going to spend. Uh, Another story is Micro Center. Uh, Compared to Amazon and Newegg, they don't have they have physical stores, which Newegg and Amazon don't. So if you want to build a computer and you want to get things right there, then Micro Center will be the best option. They have a lot of things. Um, there's one in Cambridge, Massachusetts that I've been to, and it's a really good place if you really want to browse for components, if you want to really get a feel before you actually buy them. Then we have Best Buy. Uh, Best Buy, in my opinion, is better if you will buy in already built computers, as their selection for components is not really great compared to the previous ones. But if you feel like they don't have it at these other stores, then then you could probably find them at Best Buy. Uh, for the desktops, um, even laptops, the first thing you need to have in mind is price. Price will dictate how powerful your computer will be and how exactly how much you can spend. Also, you need to think about what would you be doing with the computer. If you're gonna be using it for work, if you're gonna be using it for gaming, or for school, or if you just want, just regular web browsing, YouTube, things like that, then you don't really need to spend a lot of money. So buying a pre-built will probably satisfy your needs. The good thing about desktops is that they have the ability to upgrade pretty much any component. If you feel like your CPU is getting old or your motherboard, then you can just buy a new one and swap it out, no problems. Um, Components are more powerful compared to laptops, so that's a really good thing about them. Um, and when it comes to desktop, you can buy a custom where you pick the components that will go to the computer. Uh, so when buying a custom one, you need to make sure that every component can work with each other, because sometimes certain components don't work with different ones, so that could be a problem. Laptops, um, same. You need to think about price. How much can you afford to spend on a laptop? Will depend how powerful it is. Um, you can find laptops, decent laptops these days, around the $300 to $400 range. Or if you want a really good one, then you can spend thousands of dollars. Uh, the good thing about laptops is their portability. So, you can just pick it, go wherever you need to go. If you're going to a meeting, if you're going to work or do school stuff with someone else, then like you have the ability to just pick up your laptop and go wherever you want. Um, the most popular um, operating system when it comes to laptops is Windows, Mac OS for the Apple MacBook, and the Chrome OS for the Chromebook. Out of the three, Windows is the most popular ones that you will find out there. Um, then you have MacBooks, which can be more expensive compared to Windows and Chromebooks. So if you're buying a MacBook, you need to have price in mind, pretty much like one of the biggest thing. Then you have the Chrome OS. Chrome OS is for the Chromebooks, and they're cheaper than the other two, since most of the components that they have are really low end components, so they don't need to spend much money to build one. So, you know, in turn, you can find a Chromebook like for $100, more expensive if you want it more powerful, but at the end of the day, they won't be as powerful if you have a Windows or a MacBook. Um, Also depends what software you're going to use. Certain software works better on a MacBook, or some work better on a Windows. Uh, port, how which ports do you need? Compared to desktops, laptops, you cannot there's a lot of things that you cannot change or upgrade um, when it comes to them. So if you want a laptop that has specific ports, then you need to make sure which one you're buying, because you won't be able to change that unless you have to buy an external one, which can cost more money. And one of the things about the laptops is that they have built-in webcams, especially now with the pandemic, online schools, and meetings through Zoom and things like that. Um, they come in handy, so you don't have to buy like extra devices. The first thing when it comes to buying computers or laptops is CPU. The CPU um, will dictate, exactly how powerful your computer will be, and without a CPU, you won't really have anything. Two of the biggest CPU companies is AMD and Intel. AMD, they used to be less powerful than Intel, but ever since they came out with the Ryzen series, their CPUs have been on par or better than some of the Intel ones. They have higher CPU cores for less money. If you buy Intel CPU with 4 core for $300, you could probably find an AMD one that will have either 6 or 10 core for around the same price, if not cheaper. Um, they also consume less power on idle and while under stress, so you won't really have a problem with your system overheating. Um, when it comes to Intel, they perform better um, on certain tasks than AMD. Um, they consume more power, so that's something that you gotta keep in mind. So to make sure that your CPU is cool, so that it doesn't brings any problems to your motherboard. And they tend to have higher CPU clock cores than AMD. While with AMD, you can have CPU that has 10 core, but if the clock is slower, then they won't run as fast. as the Intel one, where if it has 4 core, it might run faster since it has less. Then we have motherboard. Um, for the motherboards, you need to make sure which CPU do you buy, how much can you afford on the motherboard, how many boards do you need, or which boards do you need, how many expansion slots do you need, um, are you gonna overclock? Um, the more expensive the motherboards get, the more features it has. How many RAM slots? Um, there's a lot of them that come with two, or you can have four. Uh, Also, some motherboards come in different sizes. So you have the ATX for the full tower, micro ATX, and mini ATX. You can fit a micro and a mini ATX on a ATX case, but if you buy a micro ATX or a mini ATX computer case, you won't be able to fill to put in ATX as it will be too big. Uh, Buying the right size, as the smaller motherboards have less slots and features. So if you buy a small one, you need to make sure that it has the ports and the expansion slots that you need. Otherwise, you wanna have to buy a bigger one or a different one. Um, More expensive motherboards, they have like features that have built in like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Some of them come with DisplayPort or HDMI. Um, as always, you need to make sure it has the ports that you need, so that way you are not buying extra components to add to your computer, which can increase the price of things. Um, you need to make sure how many RAM slots do you need. Um, if you buy a motherboard that only has 2 RAM slots, then you can only run the memory on single channel, or if you buy one that has 4 slots, then you can run it on dual channel. You need to make sure to check how many SATA ports it has, as that will dictate how many hard drives or SSDs will be able to be connected to the system. RAM or random access memory. They used to be expensive years ago, but now they're cheaper. But we're now back to the problem with chip shortages, so that is increasing the price a little bit, but it's still cheaper than like years ago. Um, they have speed up the system by storing information that you need right now, rather than saving it to the hard drive. Um, it will store it to the RAM, so that way your system is faster. And RAM is very easy to upgrade it on motherboards and I'm sorry, on laptops and desktops. Um, so it's pretty much one of the easiest things to upgrade, apart from hard drives or SSDs. And then we have graphics cards. Graphics cards right now are very expensive, because of two things: chip shortages and Bitcoin mining or Ethereum. There's a lot of them right now. So that has driven up the price. Um, Certain graphics cards that you will get for $500 are now in the thousands of dollars because of they're not because of stock issues. And you have the option to have integrated graphics cards, which they mostly come together with the CPUs, or you can have a discrete graphics card, which you know the graphics card would be its own component. And discrete is always better than integrated, because integrated is you're stuck with whatever the CPU comes with. But if you buy a discrete, then If you think that you need more memory for your graphics card, then you can just buy a new graphics card, and you can pick and choose how powerful you want it. So if you buy one that's um, a CPU that comes with integrated graphics card, then you're stuck with what the CPU has. And the biggest manufacturers for graphics cards is, or at least the chipset, is AMD and Nvidia. AMD, um, I, they used to be the same with as their CPUs, so now their graphics cards are good. Uh, Nvidia ones has always been the most popular one, as they tend to be more powerful than the AMD ones. Intel, most of their graphics cards are integrated into their CPUs, so I don't think you can find the Intel graphics cards on its own unless it's for like something very specific. Then we have storage. For storage, you can buy a hard drive or hard disk drive. Hard drive. They're cheap, but certain mining operations have driven up the price a little bit. Um, and normally you can buy um, bigger hard drives for less money than you would a SSD. Um, since they use magnetic disk, their performance is not good compared to SSDs. Um, One thing is SSDs, they're more expensive. Um, you can buy a 4 terabyte hard drive for around $100, but an SSD of the same size will probably cost you in the hundreds or probably thousands of dollars. And SSDs, they're way better than regular hard drives since access to the information will be almost instantly. As for the regular hard drives, you don't have to wait for the disk to spin up and get to where the information is. Then for the operating system, um, Windows is pretty much the most popular one out there, as most of the drivers and software are made for Windows or Mac OS. Um, there's also Linux, but Linux is more for people who have knowledge with computers, especially like programming and things like that. So Linux will not really be for someone who just entered the computer world. And as I mentioned before, the Chrome OS, they're for entry-level laptops. Um, so you wouldn't really see a powerful computer or desktop or laptop with Chrome OS. So yeah. And then when buying a computer, you need to have in mind accessories, um, the monitor that you want to buy, um, if you wanted a regular HD monitor or a 4K monitor. Um, some of them can get very expensive because they have certain features. Um, Also, Um, mouse, you can buy a simple one. It will do the same job as other ones, but you can also buy very specific uh, mouse if you want it for gaming or for work, or there's a lot of them. Keyboard, um, you can buy the plain ones, or you can one, or they have ones now where you can have them light up. So if you want the keyboards to light a certain color, things like that. Um, Also like printer, especially for school or for work. Um, Disk drives, they're not really used much anymore. You can still get them, but almost it's like they're rarely used now. Uh, this is all the places where I found the information. Um, if if you need any guides to build a computer, YouTube is probably your best option. There's thousands or probably millions of videos showing you how to build it from scratch. If you have any errors, if something wrong, if you connected the wrong way, there will always be a video for every specific problem. And the chances of not finding a solution to your problems is probably slim. Uh, so yeah, guys, this is one of the options that you guys can have when buying computers. One thing that I forgot to mention is the power supply, but the power supply is more for desktops. When you're building a computer, you need to have in mind how much power your computer is gonna use or electricity so that you can buy a power supply that can satisfy the needs and also leave enough room so that if you add more components or if you change components, then they can increase how much power the computer uses. So that's something that you need to have in mind. So yeah, guys, this is me helping you buy a new computer. All right, thank you. Um, so the websites that I was talking about, we have Newegg. So over here, they have if you go they have this option. If you go to the website, if you go to build to order, you can over here on the right hand side, it starts with the CPU, motherboard, memory, and so on. And as you can see, uh, it shows you the price depending on the CPU. So as you're building it, it shows you how much money you're spending. And I believe they have the option where it shows you also how much power your computer is using. So if you think that your computer is gonna use too much power, then you can with the power supplies you can like buy one that has more that can provide more power or less power depending on your needs.